event out right in front of Town Hall at the World War II Memorial on Friday at 11 o'clock. So hope you'll join us.
Right, yeah. Any other announcements of stuff coming up? I'll mention, yeah.
No, go ahead.
I'll just mention something about the election. I'll leave the national election alone, but I'll just comment on how well and efficient Brookline conducts its elections, and I think Town Clerk Pat Ward and his staff do a phenomenal job. We had 74% turnout. What about something like close to 30,000 voters, a third of whom voted early, so this is the first time we did early voting. I took advantage of that, and it was a very quick, painless process. Went very smooth, and from all I've heard, the whole election went very smoothly.
I saw there was a photograph of Tom Brady
right,
with the people down in the town clerk's office bringing in his ballot.
Right, yeah. And one of the questions on the ballot is going to give us some stuff to think about, and that's the marijuana legalization. And there's some local options in the legislation. I know that's going to be going to the legislature's taking a look at it to see if there's any modifications. One local option is an option to impose taxes, 2% sales tax on recreational marijuana. And the other one is a zoning local choice where we can zone where the marijuana dispensaries, if that's what they're going to be called, stores, are to be located.
I think head shops is the one.
We're all together, I think.
Right. But one provision in the law that just passed is that if we have an area in town that's zoned for medical marijuana, we have to permit recreational marijuana in that same zone. And we have at least, I think, 3 areas in town that I'm aware of, at least 3. So
We're going to have to take another look at that zoning.
right, and there are licensing provisions.
Yeah, so Selectman Green and I chair the Licensing Bylaw Review Committee, and I imagine that we will be having a robust conversation about the question, what was the question 1? Or
Question 4.
4
Yeah.
that passed, and what we're prepared to do as a town. I imagine there will be at least one warrant article filed in the spring regarding this.
Or, yeah, I would think the tax at the very least, and then...
I imagine at least one warrant article will be filed.
Right. So, any other comments? I'll just note that Selectman Heller had to step out for a few minutes. To expect her back in a little bit. So I'm going to take some things out of order. So the first thing I'm going to take is the fire personnel item, where Fallon Ambulance Service it will present certificates to 19 Brookline firefighters who arrived on the scene where Fallon Ambulance responded to 911 calls for ST elevation heart attacks. And Fallon presents these certificates as part of their receiving the highest level of commendation, the American Heart Association's Mission Lifeline Gold Award. So who's going to present that? Chief Ward.
Good evening. I know you guys are busy tonight, so this is Kevin Mon from Fallon. He's going to present the awards. We'll give the awards to the firefighters afterwards. He'll just read off all the names, if that's
Okay.
all right with the selectmen.
Sure.
Sir? Okay. This is Kevin Mon from Fallon Ambulance.
Speaking to the mic.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. Just to give a few words about this award,
Sure.
It is a nationwide award put out by the
the American Heart Association for basically heart attack recognition and care delivered and fast transportation to the hospital where definitive care can be seen and done. And so Fallon is the only organization and the only ambulance service in Massachusetts that won the Gold Award. And that's a collaborative team approach that has happened here in Brookline and other communities in which we've responded to calls. So this is quite an honor, and we wanted to recognize the firefighters who are on the front lines delivering oxygen and care, updating, and all those kinds of things. So before I read off the names, Dr. Schoenfeld, the Public Safety Medical Director from the Beth Israel, just wants to say a couple words, and then I'll read off the names.
Sure.
Thank you, Kevin. So again, I'm Dr. Schoenfeld from the Beth Israel and serve as the Medical Director for Police, Fire, and EMS here in Brookline. This award and this recognition should be a real source of pride for the community and also represents and shows just how effective the public safety team here in Brookline is. Right from the initial point of contact with the 911 call and the emergency telecommunicators through the police and fire response, EMS response and transport, and then definitive care at the hospital. And so the citizens of Brookline are getting truly amazing care from start to finish. And that really leads not just in ST Elevation MI, which is what this award is, but in the care of trauma patients, as you may hear about from a recent award at the Regional EMS Awards banquet for trauma or for cardiac arrest. We see time and again Brookline Public Safety really coming through to serve the community in a truly outstanding fashion. And so you should all be very proud, both of the departments that that fall under your purview and all the personnel who are being recognized today and those who work right alongside them for the truly outstanding work they do for the community on a daily basis.
Thank you.
So I'll just read off the names of the awards. It includes Brookline Fire Department members as well as Fallon Ambulance paramedics that are present tonight and some that may not be here, but I want to recognize their names as well, as this is a fantastic award. Last year, just to put it in perspective, we won the Silver Award, and this year it's the Gold Award, so something to keep going forward and delivering that care. So from the Brookline Fire Department, Lieutenant Stephen Grootman, Firefighter Robert O'Connor Jr., Firefighter Joseph Mello, Firefighter Daniel Breen, Lieutenant Todd Cantor, Firefighter Dean Ian Chachera, Firefighter Tarantino, Lieutenant Christopher Merrick, Firefighter Richard Buckley, Firefighter John Sullivan Jr., Firefighter James Kirby, Firefighter David McCann, Firefighter Ryan Buckley, Firefighter James Clinton, Firefighter Edward Gilbert Jr., Captain Daniel Carroll, Firefighter Curtis Stafford, Firefighter David Munoz, and Firefighter Daniel Tian. From Fallon, the paramedics that for the cases that were submitted to the American Heart Association is paramedic Sherry Driscoll, paramedic David Farola, paramedic Faith Keene, paramedic Patrick Crimmins, paramedic Christopher Caron, paramedic Joseph Mavergeorge, and paramedic Adam Marshall. So this is quite an accomplishment and something to continue forward with the quality of care being delivered here in Brookline. Thank you very much for giving us the time to recognize these folks.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you and congratulations to Fallon Ambulance, to the firefighters, and to the paramedics who participated in this. We have a little leg up over some communities because we're so close to the hospital, which is great. But I hope none of us ever has to use the service. But it is really good to know that it's there if we need it. And I appreciate the great training that our firefighters receive and. Which allows them to respond as well as they do. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anything to add on to that. Okay. Next item is one of my favorite things, and it's the question of appointing the following, well, I'll let the chief isn't here.
No, it's the Superintendent Morgan.
I'll let Superintendent Morgan introduce the officers.
Good evening to the board and Mr. Collector. Tonight we're here to officially appoint 10 of our student officers to full-time police officers with the Brookline Police Department. Out of these 10 officers that we're looking to appoint, 6 of them have previous experience as working with the Brookline Police Department in a civilian capacity, and it shows that they persevered and wanted to rejoin the Brookline Police Department as a full-time police officers. Shows us what a good town it is to work for, and also that they've had experience with the police department. They want to rejoin us in this capacity. As you know, there's a long process, an 18-month process, as far as from the civil service test through the hiring process, through backgrounds, psychologicals, medicals. They have a 6-month police academy, is one of the longest training programs for anybody in public service in the Commonwealth. This group, that especially as a group, succeeded very outstandingly in the academy, and also as far as individually, we had 2 of the top academic awards. We also had one of the officers was the overall outstanding student officer for the whole academy, which was approximately 80 different individuals from across the Commonwealth. So we're very proud to have them. From this point, once they're sworn in, they'll have a 12-month period of probationary, starting from tonight till 12 months out, and will be regularly evaluated by their fellow officers and also from their first line and supervisors and above. And we'll, at the end of the 12-month period, we'll determine if they have no incidents, they'll become regular police officers. I'll give you the names of those officers now. Ranye Monsell, Nicholas Goon, Audrey Underwood, Michael Mychek, Kerry Keaveney, Christopher Elcock, Ryan Milligan, Stephen Burke, David Pilgrim, and Megan Keaveney.
Okay.
Yeah, well, this is always a happy occasion, and we're delighted you did so well in your training. We do recognize that not only you, but your families make a sacrifice when you're in public service in the police department, because your schedules are, maybe at times not what your family would really prefer, and they worry about you. But we feel like we have the best police department in the Commonwealth. And so I think you are going to enjoy your time working with us, and we welcome you.
Selectman Green.
Yeah, I'd like to say that this is a great class. It's a very diverse class. I also want to point out, I think I've said this before, that 6, as I see, of the individuals are from Brookline High School. That's really great that we're going into our high school to advocate for joining the police department, and we're being successful. I also note that most of the individuals have experience that will really enable them to stand out for our community in the police department. Everything from having experience as a victim advocate to working in our school systems to working as civilians in the police department. I think that's really great. It's going to provide the community with the type of skills beyond just the policing function of your job that will be invaluable.
So I'll say welcome or welcome back, whichever the case may be, and say thank you. This is a tough time to be in law enforcement, to be a police officer, and I appreciate you stepping up to rise to the challenge to serve the citizens of Brookline. I think Brookline has a rich tradition of quality police work, and I'm sure all of you are going to participate and add to that illustrative roster of accomplishments. I want to say, do the right thing, and this board will always have your back. We respect our police officers. We believe in what you're going to do and what you have done in the past, and all we ask is that you use your best judgment and try and do the right thing.
Okay. And I'll just add my own welcome, or welcome back, as the case may be for some of you. I don't have much more to add. This is, as some of my colleagues have said, it's a tough time to be in law enforcement, and given your performance at the academy, it sure looks like you're up to the challenge. So welcome aboard, and I'll say thank you to the family members who've come to see you all inducted into the department, and Selectman Green.
Let me just add one more thing. As Selectman Franco indicated, we have your back. Just ask you to do the right thing. But I want to make the community aware of the fact that we just don't tell you to go out and do the right thing. We provide training, and fairly intensive training, I think, and supervision to enable you to do that effectively. And the community should realize that we're not just throwing people out in the street as new patrolmen, but we're really providing the support that will enable them to become both very good police officers as well as very important contributors to the community in a much general sense. So.
Yeah, just to add, Mr. Green, we also have a 10-week program that they're entering into now is for recruit integration, that they'll be working with field training officers, the capacity to learn the job, learn the streets of Brookline, learn our internal process. So this is in addition to these 6 months that they've already completed at the Lowell Police Academy. They're now in another training period for 10 weeks before they're actually going to work on their own. So training is always ongoing. So.
Okay, so I will move that we appoint the following student officers as probationary police officers effective November 9th, 2016. Grania D. Moncel, Nicholas C. Goon, Audrey K. Underwood, Kerry C. Keaveney, sorry. I have a lot of problems.
Don't worry, he messes up everyone's name.
Yeah, so you'll have to forgive me. Christopher K. Elcock, Brian Merrigan, Michael J. Meitzek, Stephen E. Burke, David A. Pilgrim, and Megan Keaveney. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Receiving
Thank you.
Kind of get yourself organized right now. You guys come over here, get yourself organized, and don't be on the edges.
Brian, you get in front of your show where you want to front. You just give your space. You're back. No, you move over this way. Nick, that way. Everyone got it? Okay. Congratulations. You want to do it next week?
Don't go, don't go, don't go. That board needs to
Swear them in. Swear them in, yeah. That would be nice. That would be a little bit problematic, but. Hey, let me go see your shakes back.
After every sworn in downstairs in the lobby, okay?
You want to do it downstairs?
No, you can do it here. Yeah.
You want to get in front of that emblem? I was going to say Albert. I got two fourth cousins here somewhere. I don't even know who you are. I know we're relatives. You don't want to know who they are. Okay, fair enough. Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? Please say aye and state your name. I, Stephen Burke. Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
That I will faithfully and impartially.
That I will faithfully and impartially.
Discharge all the duties incumbent upon me.
Discharge all the duties incumbent upon me.
As a police officer for the town of Brookline.
As a police officer of the town of Brookline.
According to the best of my ability and understanding.
According to the best of my ability and understanding.
Agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution.
Agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution.
The laws of the Commonwealth.
The laws of the Commonwealth.
And under rules, regulations, and bylaws.
And under rules, regulations, and bylaws.
Made under authority thereon.
Made under authority thereon.
Congratulations, sir. Yeah, he does. Sorry, you can say it. But thanks, Pat. Thank you. Okay, guys can fall out. They all have the right answer?
Maybe you can take, what do we?
Which item?
Miscellaneous, he's the smart grant, the smart, but I don't know.
I saw Robbie's over there. Okay, so I'll do the, yeah. So I'll just go down the calendar now. Okay, now back to the mundane business of the Selectmen. We'll start with our miscellaneous calendar, approving the minutes of November 1st. I had some changes that I've turned into Kate. Anyone else?
I turned in changes too.
Okay, so I will move that we adopt the minutes as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The next item is a question of accepting a grant in the amount of $2,500 from FM Global Fire Service Programs to continue to help fund the cost of installing smoke and carbon monoxide detectors in the homes of Brookline seniors. Chief Ward.
Good evening again. After we received a grant from FEMA, we visited over 225 senior residents. We checked their existing detectors, replaced batteries, answered fire prevention questions, and installed over 450 combination smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. Many of the homes had either no working detectors or no detectors at all. We felt the program was so successful that we applied for another grant through FM Global. That grant was successful. If I could just read the letter we got, it's just one paragraph. I know you're in a hurry. Congratulations, your grant application for an FM Global Fire Prevention Grant stood out among the hundreds we received, and we will be funding $2,500 towards the purchase of combination smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. And I'd just like to thank, before I ask you for your approval, the executive administrator of ours, Liz Scott, for her hard work.
Okay.
Well, it's a wonderful program, and I know we have been speaking of it on our meetings of Brookline as an age-friendly community. So we thank your department very much for doing this. It's sometimes it's seniors aren't, you know, some of them always aren't up on everything. It's so great to see you're getting the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors in those houses that don't have them or don't have working ones, and you know, particularly for those seniors where they might be slow getting out of a building.
Right.
You know, they need the alarm. So thank you.
I see in the letter that this is going to allow you to install combination fire and carbon monoxide detectors in 50 additional homes. I think the fire detector is in and of itself important, but the carbon monoxide detector is even more important in my mind, as seniors may have been in their homes for some time and may not have that additional technology integrated into an aged fire detector. So I think it's a great program. I'm particularly happy about the carbon monoxide detector, as you can tell, and hope that these 50 homes are going to be the first installment in many homes that we service in the future.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to take a vote, but don't go.
Okay.
So I'm going to move that we accept the grant in the amount of $2,500 from FM Global Fire Service programs to continue to help fund the cost of installing smoke and carbon monoxide detectors in the homes of Brookline seniors. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So I understand there was a two-alarm fire
Yes.
on Cypress Street. Tell us
Cypress
a little about
Street,
that.
It was a great save by Ladder Company 1. I feel the woman was very lucky. I just found out that she's released from the hospital, which I know a lot of people had been asking about her. She was lucky she got to the front of the building because all the fire was in the rear and there was no access to the third floor. They had to go in through the front to get to the third floor. Luckily, somebody told us where she was, and we were able to get her. It was a great save.
Right, yeah. I saw there was a lot of damage to the building.
Yeah, second and third floor, a lot of fire damage. First floor, a lot of smoke and water damage.
Right.
Do you know what the origin of the fire was?
They haven't
Cause?
confirmed, but it looks like it started on the second floor deck outside and actually went into the building.
Wow.
It actually got pretty far into the building from starting outside.
Wow. Was this another case of somebody smoking?
That's one of the things they're looking at.
Because wasn't that the same, the fire that was near the Lawrence School a couple of years ago? Wasn't
Yeah.
that somebody smoking out on the
Yeah.
deck? So we should say for anyone who's listening that you have to be really careful.
Yeah, you gotta make sure your cigarette's out of, not smoke at all.
Yeah.
I would like to ask a question. So I understand from some neighbors that there was no second means of egress from that third floor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So is that not a code issue?
They're investigating that now. There was some other problems with that building, and its building department's looking at it now.
Okay. So I think you could educate me and perhaps some other members of the board and the public. You don't do inspections of these apartments without a complaint or a reason. If someone applies for a building permit, they're obviously going to get an inspection, and some problems may be discovered then, correct?
That's correct. And if the home is sold, then we go in, it's called a 26F, where we check the smoke, make sure they have smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. There was no building permit pulled for some of the work that was done in this house. That's why it wasn't discovered till the fire.
Okay. Well, that's an important message to people, is we have fire codes for a reason, and they're not meant to be punitive and make you spend more money. They're meant to enhance safety.
Correct. And we have a great relationship with the building department, so when someone comes and pulls a permit, they notify our fire prevention office, so it's a good coordinated effort.
And there's a broader point here, that, if you're aware of a situation where there's not a second means of egress, I know that none of us like to turn in our neighbors, but somebody potentially could have lost their life here. We're putting our firefighters at risk because they selfishly go in and try and rescue people. So this is truly a matter of public safety, of life and death. And, thank God there wasn't a serious injury or fatality here, but this story doesn't always end as happily as
Right.
this.
That's true.
Okay, thank you, Chief
Great.
Ward.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Next item is a question of accepting a grant in the amount of $81,646.12 from the Executive Office of Public Safety to continue the Brookline Police Smart Policing Initiative. Superintendent Morgan.
Yes, I would like you to accept this grant in that amount. This is the second round of the grant. We originally, round one, got $28,500 to implement a software program. It's called I-5. It's basically, it allows us to interface with a separate system with our existing record management system. And what happens is was able to set up and interface with that now, so we can pull any data we want out of that records management system to Larimore. And this $81,000 now extra is going, what it's going to do is allow us to drill down even further. And at each different division commander can set up their own dashboard and pull out things that are pertinent to them, or that they're on are being challenged, as I say, a goal to accomplish, and they can get data particular to that, that problem that they want to solve. So instead of having one dashboard for the whole department, this will give us the opportunity to have separate dashboards for different divisions, for different job functions, and also to begin at some point change that when the dynamics change, that we need different information from different sources, and it all originates to that. So that's where we had initially the Executive Office of Public Safety with the Burns grant.
Okay. Any questions?
I just have a little comment. As always, I'm impressed with your department's ability to get these great grants, which really enhance what you're able to do. So it's excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so I lost my place. I will move that we accept the grant in the amount of $81,646.12 from the Executive Office of Public Safety to continue the Brookline Police Smart Policing Initiative. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, we have some temporary alcohol licenses, so I will move the bunch of them in omnibus fashion. So I will move that we grant 2 all kinds alcoholic sales licenses to Hellenic Association of Boston, doing business as Annunciation Greek Orthodox Cathedral of New England, for the following events at 162 Goddard Avenue: the Cretan Annual Dance, Saturday, November 12th, from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m., and a social event on November 19th from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. I'll move that we grant a temporary wine and malt alcoholic beverage sales license to Lars Anderson Auto Museum for a fashion show to be held on Monday, November 14th from 5:30 to 11:30 at 15 Newton Street. I will move that we grant a temporary wine and malt beverage alcoholic sales license to Olive Connection for a private event to be held on Saturday, November 19th from 6:30 to 9:30 at 1426 Beacon Street. I'll move that we grant a temporary wine and malt beverage license to TEDx Beacon Street, Ideas in Action, Ann Turner, volunteer for a party, Escape Velocity, to be held on Friday, November 18th from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Brookline Teen Center, 40 Aspinwall Avenue. And lastly, I'll move that we grant 2 temporary all kinds alcoholic sales licenses to Pine Manor College for the following events at 400 Heath Street: a corporate dinner November 17th from 6 to 9:30, and a holiday party on December 9th from 6:30 to 11. And I've reviewed all of the applications. They appear to be in order. And all those in favor of all those motions, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And one of the events I read reminded me that there's a great event coming up at the Lincoln School on November 19th and 20th, and it's TEDx Beacon Street. It's a great event, and it's put together by a group headed by John Warner, Ideas in Action, and it's a really exciting event. It's free. They have a website, TEDx. If you just Google TEDx Beacon Street, you'll go right to their website. They do ask that you sign up in advance and register, and they'll have name tags. They have, these are TED Talks. The quality is high. The people that they have giving these talks are exciting. Leaders in their field, and I've gone for the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and I've learned a lot, and I would encourage everyone to attend. And it's over at the Lincoln School, November 19th and 20th. No, is that it? Yeah, November 19th and 20th. So we're a little ahead of ourselves on the calendar. We have a public hearing at 8 o'clock. So we're not going to do that until 8. We have an item that we can move up, and that's the question of approving the charge of and a slate of membership. I believe not all the members, a partial slate for the 9th School Oversight Committee for the Baldwin Project, and Selectman Daley is going to be the Selectmen's representative on this committee.
Yes, so if you look at the material you got at your place tonight, there's the updated memo with most of the names filled in, and I want to say that I got the Parks and Rec person and the community members. It's the school department that's a little slow in getting their members. So it's going to be David Pollock, myself, and Janet Fearman as the 3 co-chairs. That's School Committee, Building Commission, and Board of Selectmen. Clara Batchelor has agreed to be our Parks and Rec member. The school parent representatives or Superintendent Bott is working on. The 2 people in the greater Baldwin neighborhood that I lined up are Steve Brooks, who lives right across the street and also happens to be a parent of 3 kids, so probably at least 1 or 2 of them might be attending the new school eventually. And Blair Hines, who's a landscape architect, he's a member of our planning board, and some of you will remember he expressed deep concerns about this site, but he and I had a discussion, and he is prepared to, since this site was chosen, he feels like it behooves him to make it the best project it can be. Both of these community representatives are very concerned about the traffic in the area, so we're probably going to have a subcommittee and try to see what we can do on those issues.
I think we're all concerned about that.
Yeah. Town administrator or his designee, the building commissioner or his designee, the superintendent of schools, deputy superintendent for administration and finance, and deputy superintendent for teaching and learning. And I think we're actually having 2, it says school principal representative. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 on that. There was a question of, okay.
I think in
there was a question of whether
high
it should-
school there's a headmaster.
Okay.
Or some other.
Yeah. Well, we're debating whether to have Heath represented or Baker represented, but
That's up to the school department. Isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, they're working on that too. So we'd like to go ahead and appoint the ones we have, and we'll have to come back with the other 2 names. But we need to get moving, and the other boards and the building commission and the school committee need to appoint this too, so if we can.
Okay, so I will move that we approve the charge of the 9th Elementary School Oversight Committee for the Baldwin Project and the slate of membership as just outlined by Selectman Daley and as indicated in our package. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Did we?
I don't know who's coming here.
Yeah, we may have.
So do you know if, who might be invited or coming under the articles? Is there someone coming for each article?
I'm not sure.
Were they told a time?
I don't think so. I'm not sure what Stephanie had indicated with these. I mean, these would be items that you would be reconsidering anyway because there are motions that will be in front of you. So whether it be the night of town meeting or tonight, if you were able to take action tonight, I'd be able to hopefully give Timmy something that then can go in the mail. Otherwise, we'd have to wait and inform town meeting. And Article 6 is probably one that would be taken up the first night, hopefully.
Okay, so,
We may have one of our
Right.
candidates to be interviewed for commission here, so we could do that.
right, yeah, why don't we do that? So, Yvette Johnson, come on up. And you'd like to join the Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Relations Commission. Yeah, come up to the podium, tell us about yourself and your interest in the commission.
I don't know where to place that. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Yvette Johnson. I am a 31-year resident of the town of Brookline. I am currently a resident in affordable housing. I'm a senior. I'm considered disabled. I'm obviously a minority, part Afro-American, part Puerto Rican. And I am interested in serving on the commission for diversity and inclusion. While I don't have a lot of experience in, I guess, the specifics, which would be fair housing, equal employment opportunity, I have, as an auditor for the Commonwealth, audited areas for compliance with the Equal Credit Opportunity Act and the Community Reinvestment Act, which was also the subject of my thesis. So I'm familiar with those kinds of things. I serve on the Brookline Improvement Coalition, which is the nonprofit that puts together affordable housing. And so, you know, my interest started, I can tell you, in reading the articles in the Brookline tab. Since then, I have downloaded all of the available minutes from the diversity and inclusion meetings, and I have read through them as well, from the point where you were trying to get it together and figure out who you were and what you were going to be doing and what your mission was and what your goal was. But I think that I can provide a unique perspective in you know, having people of all areas, of all colors, of all ethnicities on the commission. I don't know the people on the commission. I have not yet been to any of the meetings because they always conflict with my other meetings. But it's just an area of interest for me. I come from a background. My mother was a rep in Roxbury and Dorchester. I grew up in the Orchard Park housing projects. She was also the commissioner on the Housing Authority, and so fair housing and those kinds of issues have always been issues, that we talked around the table. And so I think that's what I have to offer. Like I said, I have no formal training in these areas, but I've audited compliance with various rules and regulations for both the banking department and the auditor's office. I've audited departments such as Department of Housing and Community Development, Mass Rehab, Division of Employment and Training, which is the unemployment arm. I've been part of the single audit of the Commonwealth in conjunction with Deloitte & Touche, or Deloitte now, I believe. I've been a member of the Institute of Internal Auditors, and so that's my background. I have a master's in education from Cambridge College.
So the one question I have is, you said you had a conflict with the meetings. Is that going to be a problem?
Well, the Brookline Improvement Coalition meets at a certain time every month on the third Thursday. As I look at the various meetings for the Diversity and Inclusion Commission, they meet, I don't see where they meet at the same time each month. So I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Okay.
I'm finished with the River Road Study Committee, and hopefully they're going to go to town meeting. Although I am looking to be part of that design advisory team if I can. I'm not a town meeting member.
Congratulations.
That was just a little bit too much for me.
I was just going to say, I think you should be a town meeting member.
I think
Think about it.
that's just a little, I said to somebody one day, I don't mind being at town hall, but every day of the week is a little too much because I'm not getting paid for this.
That's what my wife says.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. It's especially for us. I just want to say, first of all, whatever you read in the local newspapers is not really a full and fair account of what went on. We were being advised by council not to respond to various things. So what understandably, then the newspapers have one side of the story and not the other. I just want to.
I understand that, and the minutes. When I read through the minutes, they don't have the full story either. So I mean, my thinking is that in order to get the full story of any situation, you have to be there. You have to be part of it, and that's one of the reasons that I am looking for. It's funny. There's not a lot of things that I wanted to be part of in the town because I'm older, and getting out in the winter and all of that is a bit much. I served on the River Road Study Committee as my first civic anything in the town of Brookline, and I did that because at the time I was the chairperson of a tenant association, the tenant association in the development that I live. And I wanted them to have a voice and to be included in that whole study, and that's why I want to be on the design advisory team, because I want to be part of what goes up in our neighborhood that crosses right across the street from us.
Right.
And so again, I wanted them to have a voice, and that's how I started. I've been living here 31 years. This just happened last February. So it's taken me a while to want to be part of.
Well, you seem very well qualified for the Diversity Commission, I will say. But I just wanted to ask you, speaking of getting you involved, another question.
No.
I'm chairman of the town's audit committee, and currently I don't think we have any openings. But would you mind if I gave your information to the town moderator, and then if an opening comes up, he might call you and see if you want to. It's not a bad committee to be on, because we have to work hard, but we only have just when the audit report comes out, we have to, you have to spend a day or so going through it, and then we have a couple of meetings. So it's not a real tough committee to be on.
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know that I would have the time to commit if, by chance, I am chosen to be on the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, which is near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
Okay. If I am, again, fortunate enough to be part of the design advisory team for the development of Emerald Island, and I am currently on the board at BIC.
Okay.
So,
all right.
again, I don't know that I would have the time to
Okay.
commit.
Well, I keep
to
trying
anything
to
else.
convince my fellow members here that the audit committee is really one of the more interesting committees in town, but it's a
That's
tough
not really
sell.
true.
It's a tough sell.
No, I agree.
Selectman Green.
It's a very important committee. But I hope that, well, I appreciate your interest in the commission. I hope that you would use your experience in the audit field to really contribute to the process of the committee's functioning, making sure that, it's organized, its projects are organized well, based on, good evidence, in terms of, what they come up with as proposals. And just general organizing and organizational skills is something that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to be selected, I hope that you would bring those skills from your background into the commissions.
I think not only would I be able to do that, I think that I would be also able to look at some of the compliance issues, compliance with laws and regulations, to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. In terms of organizational skills, I mean, I have supervised teams of auditors, both in-state and out of state, and that could be anywhere from, 2 to 10. I've been in supervisory and managerial positions for a number of years. My auditing background spans to about 30 years. So I do have those skills, and I have to say it's one of my fortes.
I do just want to tell you that we've had no material weaknesses for many years now.
That's good.
Selectman Franco?
So you may have lived in the town for 31 years, but you didn't know what you were doing when you volunteered for the River Road Study Committee. It took me knocking on your door to drag you out.
When they first talked about the River Road Study Committee, I said, okay, go to a couple of meetings. I didn't know it was going to be like from February to November.
I'm a taskmaster, what can I say?
But you know what? I learned so much about parking ratios and FARs and I'm serious, setbacks, and now I know when people talk about it, I know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And, I'm not adverse to learning. I was looking at some of the equal employment opportunity, and I audited for a long time for the Equal Credit Opportunity Act in banks. And I found it to be very interesting. I mean, it's not something that a lot of people care about, but it was interesting to me.
I just want to speak for a second about why I think you would be a welcome addition to the Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Relations Commission. So obviously, Yvette and I worked together on River Road, which was a committee that lasted some period of time. I think we got to a good result, and hopefully next week we'll get an affirmative vote from town meeting. Maybe more importantly, you were a forceful advocate for the community that you represented and a contributing, productive member of the committee. There was clearly a lot of work to go around, and whenever I called Yvette or she turned up at a meeting to comment on something that was whatever the topic of discussion was for that morning or that evening. Her comments were always on point, and she always came prepared. She was willing to take on homework and engage in sort of the iterative process that any of these committees we work on are subject to. So I think you would be a welcome addition to this commission. I think you clearly have thought a lot about these issues, and I look forward to supporting your appointment whenever we take a vote.
Thank you.
Okay. We're not going to vote tonight.
I know.
But sounds like a good bet that you'll get appointed.
There's openings there, so looking good for you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll now move on to the public hearing for grants of locations. We have two. The first one is the public hearing on the petition of Crown Castle NG East LLC for permission to construct and a location for such a line of conduits and manholes with the necessary cables therein under the following public way: Carlton Street, the easterly side, conduits southerly from the town line, a distance of 19 feet to a new manhole, thence turning and running easterly a distance of 3 feet to an existing street light. Welcome back.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, board members and Mr. Kleckner. My name is Kostya Jovanovic, Government Relations Manager for Crown Castle. By way of background, Crown Castle operates a distributed antenna system in Boston, Brookline, Somerville, Cambridge, and our system allows wireless carriers to operate in an efficient fashion. The area at Carlton Street and Commonwealth Avenue has been found to be an area where the current capacity of the system is maximized, and the way that we alleviate those constraints is by adding additional what we call node locations. And that's what we're about right here. Is we're adding we will be adding some electronics and an antenna to a pole there at the intersection of Carlton and Commonwealth Avenue. And in order to feed that pole with fiber optic cable, we need to ask for the underground trench.
So what kind of disruption can we expect?
I would anticipate it would be 4 or 5 hours, but what we'll do is submit a traffic management plan when we apply for our excavation permit, and we'll follow the direction of the traffic department.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this one?
So I just want to ask, this would not impact electrical service at all. It's a completely separate project from any N-Star cables or service disruptions.
This is cell service.
When we take over a pole location, we do bring separate electric service to it, so we'll be utilizing the same trench.
Yep.
This is a public hearing. If there's anyone here who wishes to speak about this grant of location, now is your time. And I see none. Any other? Mr. Franco.
Jim Franco, Precinct 1 Town Meeting Member. I'm sorry to bring this up if you'll just indulge me 1 second.
Sure.
As you know, we are in Precinct 1 stressed out because we have a lot of activity going on. There's 3 or 4 projects. N-Star, or excuse me, was it Eversource? There was an electrical outage recently. So this is an opportunity for me as a town meeting member representing my precinct.
I want to speak at the next one.
Okay, well, I don't care about that because that's Cottage Street.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to use this opportunity to say that the board, when asking questions, as Selectman Franco did, should be aware that precautions are taken to avoid outages in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
So by way of background, there was a significant outage in Cottage Farm that resulted in some surges that damaged appliances, and it was disruptive at best. I think that everything's been worked out, but it was it happened on, I think, a Thursday or a Friday, and, worst possible time.
Well, we should ask the question, what do you do to make sure you don't short out the electrical system in the area?
The electrical work is left to Eversource.
Oh, okay. Yes.
We count on their expertise.
It wasn't that particular surge caused by a generator for BU?
It was in Boston,
Yeah.
but it affected Cottage Farm area.
Yeah, okay. Sure, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Rick Schiffoni. I'm with Eversource. I'm a rights and permits supervisor. And we were asked to come to answer any questions that the selectmen may have about the incident a couple of weeks ago. In general, I wasn't sure where the questions were going to come from, so my knowledge of the incident is more of a general that there was a dig up by one of an NSTAR contractor that was working out there, took out one of our primary lines, caused outage in the area. There was no way to backfeed the area, so we had to bring in generators. One of the generators, there was an issue with hooking it up and caused some voltage spikes, which caused some damages. And there was a claims line with Eversource, and there has been several claims filed through our contractor and Eversource for any of the damages that happened during the incident. I don't know if there was any particular questions you needed answers, or if you wanted me to have one of our experts come in, whether it be the manager that put the generators on, or the contractor's supervisor from NSTAR that was overseeing the work that was being done out there that caused the initial dig up to cause the initial outage. So it was actually two separate incidences: the dig up, the outage, the generator, the issue with the generator. And by the time they resolved the issue with the generator, the power was back, so the second generator didn't really need to even go back on.
Well, I think the question is, when you have other utilities digging in areas where you have wires, what do you tell them? What's the procedure so that this doesn't happen in the future?
There is the whole dig safe process, which is followed anytime we dig in the public way. That being said, mistakes can be made, which will cause a dig up, whether something is a little offline or operator error. We're still in the investigation stage. It was in this case, it wasn't another utility; it was NSTAR. This was NSTAR doing work in the area, with one of our contractors, but it was essentially under our direction that caused the dig up. So it's all internal for us as far as the investigation with our excavation contractor of what happened.
Oh, okay. I thought you were blaming NSTAR, but it was really...
We are NSTAR. Eversource, NSTAR.
Okay.
I'd love to blame somebody. I really can't. This is internal to NSTAR. There was a contractor that was doing the work, but they were working for us, doing our work. So they come under our umbrella.
So I think you said it absolutely correctly. Mistakes happen. I think my request is that to the extent that you find that there was operator error, that you review training, to the extent that the generator itself is found to be faulty, and that's why there was the surge, it couldn't be hooked up properly, that there is some sort of increased procedure to make sure that equipment, generators that you bring onto scene function properly so that this doesn't happen in the future.
Understood, exactly.
I'd also like to acknowledge that mistakes do happen and there's really no way to avoid them. And you have a claims process, which is very important. Are there any, well, number one, what type of notice to the local residents do you give that there is such a claims process? And number two, are there any limitations that they're subject to in making claims?
I can't speak to the actual claims process. Through the website, there is a link to go through Eversource claims. We have an actual claims department that answers that. I can get you those answers. I just don't have them off, top of my head.
I know that I've communicated with some people in this part of town. There are 2 town meeting members who are sitting here who can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the rollout process, the information process to impacted parties in that neighborhood was pretty good, both in terms of, I think, a door-to-door operation immediately following the incident, and the offering of a phone line, an email address, a means of communication, so people who did have issues could have them addressed and file that claim with Eversource.
Selectman Heller.
I have a question about the, and you may not know the answer, but it occurred to me that, if your toaster is damaged, that's one thing, but if it's your refrigerator, it's another, because a refrigerator is obviously a much more expensive item. And so the question I have is, how far do you go to, reimbursing people for, I'm assuming this is not the kind of thing that can be fixed. You have to replace the item, is that correct?
Yeah, that would actually be a claims person to answer, what level and under what circumstances Eversource would reimburse somebody to make them whole after an incident like this. It's a little different than an outage from a storm, since it was caused by Eversource. So, but I just really can't talk to the actual claims process itself.
Okay. Any other comment, discussion? So I'll move that we approve the petition of Crown Castle NG East LLC for permission to construct in a location for such a line of conduits and manholes with the necessary cables therein under the following public way: Carlton Street, easterly side, conduit southerly from the town line, a distance of 19 feet, to a new manhole fence, turning and running easterly, a distance of 3 feet, to an existing street light. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Next item is a public hearing on the petition of NStar Electric, doing business as Eversource Energy, for permission to construct and a location for such a line of conduits and manholes with the necessary cables therein under the following public way: Cottage Street, conduit southerly, approximately 287 feet northeasterly of Goddard Avenue, a distance of 13 feet, to 88 Cottage Street. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Gillis, and I'm here on behalf of Eversource. We request a grant of location to install approximately 13 feet of conduit in Cottage Street, and this is necessary to provide service to 88 Cottage Street.
So what kind of disruption are we looking at here?
Well, all this work is done on the sidewalk from the pole back to the private property.
Okay, so there's no street
No street.
disturbance?
No.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Just based on the information sheet we have in front of us, it doesn't look like there's going to be disruption of service either. Is that correct?
3 days. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak on behalf of this grant of location, now is your time. And I see none. Any other comment, questions from the board? Therefore, I'll move that we approve the petition of NStar Electric Company, doing business as Eversource Energy, for permission to construct and a location for such a line of conduits and manholes with the necessary cables therein under the following public way: Cottage Street, conduit southerly, approximately 287 feet northeasterly of Goddard Avenue, a distance of 13 feet, to 88 Cottage Street. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you. Good night.
Next item is an interview for Pamela Harvey. Wishes to be on the Conservation Commission. Or, hang on.
Yes, good evening.
Good
Can I
evening.
just tell you a little bit about myself?
Please.
All right. So I'm Pamela Day Harvey. I live in Coolidge Corner, 46 Stetson Street. I've lived there since 1992. And I would say I have two main qualifications for the position on the Conservation Commission, the open seat. I have worked for almost 25 years at the Department of Environmental Protection. from 1991 to 2015, so I joined the exodus of state employees out of state government. But too good an offer to pass up. But in any event, in that, I am an attorney, and I work there in doing policy and regulatory work, much of it around wetlands. And then for the last several years there, I was a hearing officer, administrative law judge, and many of my cases involved Wetland Protection Act matters. So that was managed to learn quite a bit about wetlands there, and I did some work with water pollution control as well in Chapter 91, the state public trust doctrine. And then I have been an associate member of the Conservation Commission for, I think, a little over 6 years. I finished my second term, so it seems to have been lost in the midst of time, exactly when I began to serve there. But in any event, I was an associate. I've been an associate member, and that is a non-voting member. Some cities and towns have associate members, their commission, that allows them to sort of get some more people involved, and it can work out well. And I've enjoyed doing that. There was a potential for some conflict because of my day job at DEP. I think in large measure, it probably would not have been a conflict under the conflict law, but it's an appearance issue. So I thought the associate position membership was better. But now that I'm out of state government, I thought I would see if I could join as a full commission member.
Do we know if there's an opening? Is there a limit on how many people we can appoint? Or?
Yes. I don't know if there's an opening.
Yes, there is an opening.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Yes. Yeah, okay. Yes, Gail Fenton resigned.
I believe that they're also having trouble getting a quorum, so...
they're anxious for us
Yes.
to vote this quickly.
Yes, but there is an open seat. Gail Fenton, who served for many years, had left a couple weeks ago. So.
Okay. Well, you sound eminently qualified. I would suggest that we actually vote this one tonight if the Conservation Commission is having difficulties getting a quorum for their meetings. Because I don't believe we've had anyone else apply.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Oh, we could vote it next Tuesday
I just don't
if
know.
we don't know.
So
Okay.
you
We'll probably
want to
have
wait
to
for the vote?
Well, if there's only one opening and there's other people that have applied and we're not aware of it, I think that would be enough.
Okay, so we'll probably vote it next week.
Okay, fine. Any other
Okay.
questions?
Any other questions?
Do you feel like you have the time now that you've stepped back from your job?
Yes, I think I do have the time. Yes.
This is your passion?
Yes. Well, yes, I think I will be involved in environmental protection, one capacity or other, pretty much for the rest of my life. But this is something I'm interested in doing. I've been attending, actually, most of the meetings as an associate member.
Okay, thank you
All right,
so
thank
much.
you.
Okay, now we've got some potential reconsiderations.
Yeah, so I went through my email while we had a little break, and so Stephanie had asked the petitioner for number 6 to come sometime after 8. So we do have John Doggett from the Moderators Committee on Leaf Blowers. He's here for Articles 23 and 24. Currently, the Advisory Committee and the Board of Selectmen are not in alignment with 23. I think the earlier motion under 23 that the Advisory Committee had was deemed outside the scope by the moderator, so they had to figure out what their new position is. And you should have in your packet, item 14-1 is an email from Carla Banker, which outlines the differences from the original article that the Advisory Committee has voted. And obviously, John is here as well if you had any additional questions for him.
So here, Mr. Doggett.
I sent you, I hope you received of the letter that I wrote to you a couple of days ago, just quickly outlining the differences in 23 and 24 that have been as a consequence of our public hearings, your comments when we previously came in front of you, and also obviously the advisory committee's full, both the subcommittee and the full review. And we've incorporated those comments, as you can see. Should I go through them, or I'm happy to answer questions, whichever you prefer, Mr. Chairman?
The substantive stuff.
Okay. On 23, the key change is a shared responsibility for the violation for both the user of the equipment that's making the violation and the property owner for permitting or allowing that violation to take place. The notion here is that the contractor has a verbal or written contract with the property owner in the case where that situation exists. Obviously, if the homeowner is doing it themselves, they are both the user and the property owner, the one and the same.
So the original construct had the onus was completely on the homeowner.
Yes, that is correct.
So here it's shared. I
And
like that.
The committee originally thought that that was a cleaner, clearer view. The input that we've got, that we should consider that there's some need, because, for example, a decision might be made on the street. They pick up either erroneously or perhaps they want to do a job where they pick up, for example, the wrong equipment, the so-called Newton equipment as opposed to the Brookline equipment. The Brookline equipment, for example, might be is quieter. So therefore there is some need, what the feeling was expressed to us, that kind of situation should be taken into account. That's hence the desire, the input which we received to do both the user of the equipment in the case of a contractor or an agent and the property owner or the condo association, the property manager. There are two other changes. One was reinstatement of the 5-acre exemption. This is basically putting the language originally back to our present law. And we had tried to encompass actually school institutions in our original specification of 2-acre exemption, but when we looked at it, this was brought to our attention that this was casting a much wider net than we had originally intended, and we looked at that. We looked at detail in the tax database, and indeed that was true. So we decided that at the end of the day, the 5-acre exemption is fine. There is only one exception that we found that would fit into our class of institution, and that we would want to be exempt. And we felt because the Article 23 has an exemption procedure in it already built in, that if that institution wished to, for example, a summer camp, being a school running a summer day camp, wanting to do some clearing work, for example, then they could apply to for the exemption process, which the board would oversee. And the other is that I think in your original motion you struck out the complainant requirements for the original intent was to enhance enforcement so that the information would be available. Other cities and towns do this, but we got a lot of input that this was, including your own, said this was perhaps not required, and maybe, in fact, worse, possibly depressing complaints, which is not our intent. So we accepted the changes as proposed by the advisory committee, yourselves, and also our public hearing. So that really is the main changes to Article 23.
Okay, they sound, to my ear, they sound pretty reasonable, and I would love to avoid a floor fight on leaf blowers if we can. I think I've heard enough about leaf blowers for a while. Any other comments, questions? I'm inclined to come into agreement with the advisory committee. So I'll move that.
Move to reconsider first.
I have to move to reconsider first. So I'll move that we reconsider Article 23. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green? Aye. Chair votes aye. I'll move that we accept the advisory committee motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green? Aye. And chair votes aye. Okay. Article 24 is an article we discussed, I think, last week.
Bless you.
That's coming down with something.
Okay, I don't want to hear that.
Before town meeting.
Perfect timing, yeah.
Yeah, right. So are there any changes since last week?
Yes, there's did you see this? Right there. It's actually, I think, much more acceptable to our point of view than the original.
So it's just making it clear that it's kind of a shared enforcement responsibility.
Right, and not forcing us to designate one person to spend much of their time just doing this.
Yeah, I think, to my way of thinking, this kind of satisfies the concerns that we expressed last week.
I wonder, Mr. Kleckner, if you had a chance to take a look.
Yep. As I said last week, we can live with the language, but we wanted to take the policy direction from our board.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll move that we reconsider Article 24. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green? Aye. And chair votes aye. And I'll move that we accept the advisory committee motion on Article 24, and that will avoid a floor fight on language at town meeting.
We're accepting it because it's a
better.
reasonable proposal.
Right, and it also avoids a floor fight on leaf blowers.
We can handle a floor fight when we need to.
Yeah, but I'd rather not have one on leaf blowers.
I believe
Mr. Fisher? You're going to object to the Department of Public Works taking calls during business hours? Have you seen the language?
I don't know if there's a more recent version than the last one I've seen. If it's the Department of Public Works taking phone calls, I have no, in addition to police taking phone calls and carrying out enforcement, I don't see that I would have an objection to that. But it seems like there's a convoluted and complicated plan for giving notice and preventing police officers from providing a first, as I understand it, police officers will be prohibited from giving a citation, and there will be a first warning, and then there's a first warning the next year around, even if it's for a known violator. And it seems like a very complicated scheme that will occupy a lot of someone's time at DPW that won't advance things any more than having policemen go out and, if there's a violation, giving a citation for the violation.
I think you should read the new one that I believe Ms. Goff just gave you, because I don't think it has what you're telling us.
I think Mr. Fisher's talking about Article 23.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And I think I'm not alone. As I understand it, both the Green Caucus and the and PACS have voted no favorable action on both 23 and 24.
Okay.
So there will be.
I guess we'll have a floor fight.
I regret to inform the board that there will be a floor fight.
So is that, did they vote no action on Article 23 or Article 24?
I believe both.
Okay.
And both.
PACS, I stand corrected. PACS recommends.
And you are?
I'm Neil Gordon. I'm a Precinct 1 town meeting member, and I'm on the board of PACS. PACS recommended no action on Article 23 and favorable action on Article 24.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gordon?
I stand corrected.
Okay.
I think Mr. Gordon and I were both present at both the PACS endorsement meeting.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
And the Green Caucus, which was an early evening because people had to go trick-or-treating.
Right. Okay. So I will. Did I already move reconsideration of 24 or no? I did.
You did.
Did we vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm losing it.
I'm going to move favorable action then on the advisory committee motion. So I think you may have moved that already. But
Well, it'll be your motion. What the heck?
Okay.
All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Doggett.
So now that leaves us with Article 6. And if you don't have in your packet, I do have a copy of the petitioner's latest version of Article 6. I know he gave this to Stephanie, but he did indicate to me whether or not he was planning on moving this as a motion, so I don't know. The deadline was today at noon, so I didn't hear one way or another what he intended on doing.
He left a phone message for me, and I was listening to it while I, stopped at home briefly
We
before coming to this.
can
meeting.
take this up on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm here.
Okay.
The board will take that up today.
Okay, so I couldn't find it in my packet, so I made copies just in case you didn't have it in yours.
Well, then, sure.
All right.
Thanks, Melissa.
So, Mr. Fisher, what's going on?
We would, having rewritten this so that the product bags would apply to supermarkets larger than 4,000, I think it's 5,000 or 6,000 square feet. What that does is it defines supermarkets as what are truly supermarkets and would exclude Kirkman's and the butchery with respect to the restrictions on product bags. And I believe that that's the primary change, and I think that that was the concern of the board last time.
If you may remember, last time I believe we learned from Mr. Richmond that there is currently nothing on the market that's a marine degradable plastic bag. And so this says they can't give out plastic bags unless they are either recyclable or reusable or a plastic bag that is compostable as well as marine degradable. So in other words,
Those are checkout bags, right?
yes. And Mr. Richmond did tell me that he did not like my suggestion to take out marine degradable. And that's the part I was listening to his message quickly as I was on my way out the door, and I don't get quite why, but I was saying, well, you have this option in there, but there is no such thing currently on the market as a marine degradable bag, so why even have plastic bag that is compostable as well as marine degradable in there if you can't use it? So I said take out the marine degradable. I did get that he didn't like my suggestion, which this board voted against the whole article anyway, did not take my suggestion and vote favorable action on it with just removing marine degradable, but maybe you can elucidate this a little more for us.
If you could read me the entire clause.
It was if a retail, I'm in 8.33.2A, if a retail establishment is as defined in Section 1 provides checkout bags to customers, the bags shall comply with the requirements of being either a recyclable paper bag, a reusable checkout bag, or a plastic bag that is compostable as well as marine degradable. Only what we learned from Mr. Richmond is that there are no such bags. The marine degradable part, there's currently nothing on the market. So I'm saying, why have a bylaw saying you can hand these out if they don't exist?
Well, by the way, one reason for that is because although they're not on the market, they are available. In other words, they're not, I mean, they're too costly to really be a realistic market item, but they are out there.
No, I
And the
think he
idea
was telling
is,
us that they are not, that a merchant could not buy
right,
these at the current
that-
time.
no, that's true, but they do exist. So the idea is to sort of give incentive to people or to manufacturers to innovate and bring these onto the market.
Let me tell you that the Climate Action Committee had considered this article, although we haven't considered this revision. And one of the things we were concerned about was this issue of marine degradability, because a paper bag which hits the water disintegrates almost immediately and really isn't a threat to, at least as far as we know, a threat to marine wildlife. But we're not convinced that that's the case with marine degradable plastic bags. And so how long does it take them to degrade, and would they be a threat to animals who might choke on them or, get caught in them somehow? So that's what we based our decision on, taking that language out in our recommendation.
Which language did you want to take out?
Just the phrase plastic, you would say plastic bag in 8.33.2a, everything except the very last phrase, as well as marine degradable plastic bags, as well as marine degradable, because they've tightened up the language. Just take that out, because
that's what I suggested.
They don't exist anyway, but are they safe? They're probably not.
So they're safer than compostable bags.
Yeah, I would, if I could add, in support of what Selectman Green is saying, and I've been asked by Clint, by Mr. Richmond, if the board is inclined to take out the phrase as well as marine degradable, that it take out the whole phrase, the whole clause, or a plastic bag that is compostable as well as marine degradable. Because a plastic bag is not compostable. So the non-existence of such a thing would apply to being compostable as well as marine degradable, and it is more.
So this certainly seems like a tease to me to tell merchants, oh, you can hand out a plastic bag that's compostable and marine degradable, except
they don't exist.
They don't exist.
So if the board's going to take it out, it should take out the whole phrase.
I don't have a problem taking out the whole phrase. I think it's better to be accurate and reflective of what's happening out there. I mean, if manufacturers do develop something that's superior and our markets want to use them, we can go for an amendment. But I think at this point, to have it in there is confusing, and I would remove it.
So would you support the section if it just says they can give out bags that are recyclable paper bags or reusable checkout bag?
Period.
End of sentence.
Yes.
Nothing about compostable.
That's what they do now. So what's the difference?
Okay.
I mean, when you go to Stop and Shop, if you don't bring in your own bags, which I try to remember to do that, but, they'll give you a paper bag.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what they do now. It's not hurting anything. It's not changing anything.
Let me just say that I like the language as it is. I'm sure the bags do not exist as a marketable item now. But I think we ought to think in terms of environmental issues, not just prohibiting items, but doing something to encourage the innovation that will bring products to market that are both useful as well as environmentally are good for the environment. I think by leaving it in, even though there's nothing in the market now, it could be an incentive to a manufacturer to ramp up production or innovate some other way to bring something to the market, maybe not anytime soon, but sometime in the future.
But if those marine degradable bags that they make in the future have some adverse effect on animals, sea turtles or whatever, It
That's true of
seem-
paper bags.
Then what, but paper bags disintegrate in a second.
No, they don't.
Well,
I mean,
But marine degradable plastic bag is defined in the definition, so it's not just an arbitrary conception of what qualifies as marine degradable. It's stipulated that it's a plastic bag that conforms to the current ASTM D7081 standard specification for marine degradability. Now, I have absolutely no idea what that means, but there's something there. There's a there there.
Andy, can you tell us what that means?
I can tell you what it means. It's a bag that's made out of some type of organic material as opposed to petroleum-based material, and relatively quickly will degrade in a water environment. I mean, not instantaneously, but that's true of paper bags, which don't instantaneously or even anytime soon degrade in a marine environment.
I would agree with Selectman Green, except for the reference to paper bags, not sometime soon. And then paper bags, as Selectman Heller points out, to biodegrade pretty quickly, as opposed to.
I'm just
Go up to the
questioning
reservoir.
how
Not within a second.
marine degradable bags actually do degrade.
I
That's-
expect that the ASTM standard gives a time period that paper bags come well within, but I can't say that I know that for certain.
I mean, frankly, I don't think the bag industry is trolling our bylaws to look for something that will incent them to develop
never
something
know.
new. But I think who might look at our bylaws is someone who's got a store that is trying to figure out what they can do. And I feel like it's kind of deceptive to tell them to, oh, you can do these marine degradable bags. And then they spend 24 hours on the internet searching for them only to discover, oh, they don't exist. So I'm with Nancy. I would take the whole language out and end at reusable checkout bag in section 8.33.2A.
So I have a question about this product bag question that I think was the substance of some conversation at our last hearing. And I'm looking at 8.33.2B, the next subsection down from the one that we were just discussing. In that subsection B, it refers to subsection C of 8.33.1. I can't find C, subsection C of 8.33.1, and I'm wondering if one of my colleagues or somebody else can tell me where it is.
You can't find section C?
Subsection
There is
C.
no section C.
Right, so
Where's this reference you're talking about?
go to 8332B,
Yeah.
and it reads, if a supermarket, a retail establishment described in subsection C of the definition set forth in section
Actually,
8.33.1.
No, it is.
All you need,
It's a little confusing, but
actually, all you need to do, it's not defined in subsection C, it's just defined in 8331.
Yeah.
And it's a definition, so
Okay.
we would need to strike out, where'd it
Described
go?
in section 8.
Described in,
but there is a section C under retail establishment.
Right, so it's not,
It's not clear.
So what that 8.33.2B should read is, if a supermarket, a retail establishment described in the definition set forth in section 8.33.1
Yep.
with more than 6,000 square feet of retail space.
Yep.
Removing the words subsection C of.
yep, okay.
right, that works.
So that addresses my first concern. My second concern is it appears as though product bags would be, let me figure out how to ask this question. I think a compostable product bag would be required for any establishment greater than 6,000 square feet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I know you've said that the butchery and Kirkman's would be exempted. Who would be covered by it? Is it Stop and Shop, Trader Joe's, Shaw's?
And half food.
And
And Whole Foods.
And Whole Foods.
Okay.
Whole Foods is already complying, and that they, well, half complying, I think, that they provide paper bags. There are also, I think you've seen, Clint brings them around, product bags that are made from a bioplant resin as opposed to a petrochemical oil-based product. And they're somewhat more expensive. There's clearly a cost to them, and one can measure the cost as they're 4 times the cost of a petroleum-based bag, or one can say it'll add a penny or two to the cost of the product, or it will discourage people from using as many product bags as they do, which we didn't do as little as 20 or 25 years ago. France is going to has already outlawed plastic bags of this sort, and that's why now there is a market. And our thinking, in response to being before the questions before the board before, was what's going to drive the price down is when Stop and Shop and Shaw's and the chains are required to mass produce them. The cost will make them affordable for the smaller stores like Kirkman's and so the real thrust should be not to require Kirkman's and the butchery and smaller stores to incur the costs, but to get the large chains. Once they're buying in that kind of quantity, the cost will even out.
Maybe.
So I'm willing to move favorable action on this with the two following changes. In 8.33.2A, end the section at the end of a reusable checkout bag, period, striking or a compostable plastic bag that is, I guess compostable has been taken out already, as well as marine degradable.
So why don't we move the article?
Right, we have to move reconsideration.
Yep.
Let me just give my other change. And then
Okay.
we'll get back to. And the second one change would be in section 8.33.2B, small b, to, in the first line, delete the words subsection C of. Okay.
Okay, so I'll move reconsideration of Article, 6. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green? Aye. And chair votes aye, and I'll move, I'll let...
Yeah, why don't we do the article as it is now and do Selectman Daley's motions as two amendments to that motion?
Well, they go
Okay.
first.
So I'll move the article as it's printed, okay? And now I'll accept amendments to that motion.
I want to move the two amendments, the two strikeouts that I went through just a minute ago.
Can you make them a separate motion?
Oh, yes, okay.
Okay, so...
Strike out in section 8.33.2A, or a compostable plastic bag that is, as well as marine degradable.
Okay.
Not sure which was there.
Yeah, so your motion is to strike out as well as...
Everything after reusable checkout bag.
So the only bags allowed would be paper or
Yeah.
Reusable
cloth,
checkout
whatever.
bag, yeah.
That's what they do now.
Yeah. And in
And actually,
second
what it
motion,
needs to be, if that motion is a friendly amendment, with the requirements being either a recyclable paper bag or,
yeah.
needs the word
Okay,
or.
yeah. Okay.
So,
And then the second amendment that I think I heard Selectman Daley offer was in section 8.33.2B.
let's do this
Okay.
one. So if Selectman Daley's motion is accepted, we'll strike out the last part of the sentence. Okay, all those in favor of Selectman Daley's motion to amend the main motion, say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
No.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
No.
And Chair will vote no. And then the second one is the subsection, the striking of subsection C.
C of, and the word of after.
Okay, so that one, that's just like, that's just
It's a housekeeping.
housekeeping.
Type error.
So, all those in favor of striking subsection C, will say aye. Selectman Daley?
Aye.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And Chair votes aye. So the main motion is as amended by the petitioners. All those in favor, please, with that subsection C removed. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Daley?
No.
Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
They didn't accept my amendment, so it leaves in the compostable.
No,
Plastic bags.
that was the one we already did.
Right, we
So we're on the
did.
main
They
motion.
did not vote for it, so now we're voting on the whole thing with that language in there.
No, I'll vote for it, yes.
Selectman Green?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
I agree with your language is better.
Okay, so we've, it's a 4-1 vote on Article 6.
All
Okay.
right, I'm willing to change my vote and go with it.
A unanimous vote on Article
I'm
6.
Clearly, clearly lost that one.
And Article 22.
I hope, though, when they notify the merchants, that they do tell them, don't spend a whole lot of time looking for these things, because they don't exist.
You go online, you find them.
No, they don't exist.
They do exist.
One of the things that we intend to be doing,
Okay.
along with my thank you for the reconsideration, let me add to assuage your concerns, Selectman Daley, is that one of the things we intend to do as part of the preparation for bringing Article 5 back in the spring is to meet with the merchants to let them know where things are, what's permissible and what's available, both under what we're doing now and what we intend to do in the spring. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No, we had the merchant in here who was telling us how he'd spent, days trying to get the right cup lid. And so I sometimes they do spend a lot of time trying to work this out. And I think when we know that there is nothing current.
Okay, so the only thing left is Article 22.
So Article 22, the petitioner submitted today a revised vote and additional explanation. Not being a planning expert, I don't know that I would be able to walk you all through it, and I'm not sure if you've had enough time to read what was in your packet.
What I'm going to suggest is we not vote this tonight, but I just wanted, I put it on the calendar so we could just talk a little about it. This warrant article is intended to solve a problem that we've seen mainly in some single-family districts where some very large homes have been built with unfinished attic space, which adds to the mass. And under the current bylaw, in 10 years, you can finish it. So it puts some restrictions on finishing, attics and basements. And there have been a couple of cases that have come up in T districts, which is two-family districts, where
2 and 3.
T is 2. And then 3 is F, or it's, a couple of cases apparently have come up. One where we got an email, I believe all of us should have gotten an email, from a homeowner of an existing home who wanted to finish, I believe it was their basement, to accommodate a growing family, and in that situation, there's no exterior impact, not adding units. We're allowing a family to stay in Brookline that might want to move to another community and get a bigger home. So it seems to me that we should do the best we can to keep families in Brookline and allow homes to be expanded in a way that doesn't impact the surroundings. Dick has offered language that would exempt it would only the provisions of the article would only apply in single-family home districts. So I wanted to just bring this to your attention so you can think about it. My personal inclination would be to vote the change, but I wanted to. It's a very complicated warrant article, so I just wanted to bring this to your attention and raise your awareness of it, Selectman Frank.
And it's my understanding that we've already tried 10 years ago to add language that sets a date certain as to when the bylaw would apply.
Right.
So, for example, saying any structure that is built after, and I'm picking an arbitrary date here, December 1st, 2016, would be subject to the bylaw change. Anything built prior to that is sort of grandfathered in.
And that was ruled.
It was ruled no good by the Attorney General because it set up 2 separate classes.
Right.
So my understanding is that you've got to change it for everybody or change it for nobody. There's no way to sort of split the baby here.
No, but you can have different rules for different categories.
Right,
So
but not for date of structure.
No.
So you could do single-family homes separate from 2-family homes, separate from 3-family homes, but you can't differentiate within the type of...
Well, actually, it would be homes in 2-family districts versus...
Fair enough.
Could I ask a question? Could you say that no one who wants to expand their home beyond, 2,000 square feet, in other words, if somebody has a small place, and I think one of these cases, it's 1,300 square feet now, and they want to expand it. I don't know what the ultimate amount would be, but it's they would expand it for their growing family. If you weren't going to expand it beyond 2,000 square feet, and you weren't going to be making any modifications to the exterior or whatever, then would that pass muster rather than saying T, F, and M?
Well, it might, but that's not the way this one was structured. That would probably be beyond the scope. But
I just want to offer a little, there's a lot going on in my neighborhood of people coming in and buying 2 families or, and adding on to like the top floor and then making 2 luxury condo units.
But this doesn't apply to that. This is finishing attics and basements.
Yeah, but we also have I know the situation on this one, and I have no objection. It's a single-family home. It was in a 2-family district, and they've decided they added on to the top to make it a 2-family because they wanted their children, adult children who have kids of their own, to be able to live in Brookline, which they couldn't afford otherwise, you know, in that case, you have no objection. But if somebody else said, oh, well, I want to do the same thing and make my single-family home a two-family, adding on to it and whatever, to sell the other unit as a luxury condo, I would feel differently about it, but obviously we can't.
Right, but this has limits.
Slice the baby that way either.
This has limits related to the FAR. So this allows you to go, as amended, it allows you to go 100, so it allows you to go 130% of the allowed FAR, I believe it is.
As of right after 10 years.
Correct, but, right.
So then what would be the rule in T districts? And I'm not, you know, I'm sorry to be ignorant about this, but zoning.
You're asking me a detailed question. We should get Mr. Banka here to, he was unable to make it
I'm just
tonight.
suggesting, while I'm sympathetic to the family you mentioned, I think you have to be careful about
Right.
what you're allowing, because people are, and I can see it in my neighborhood, trying to exploit every opportunity to take older housing stock and make a lot of money off of it.
So one of the problems we have is we've tried to fix this problem 3 times. This is the 3rd attempt. And we're dealing with a zoning bylaw which needs some significant work. The tools in our toolkit are very limited. And I think the concern that you've raised, Selectman Daley, and the unfortunate situation that we find ourselves when we have to sort of decide whether we're going to support whether voting for the second part of the proposed vote here that applies to 2-family and 3-family districts it's unfortunate. We really need to go in and do some significant revisions to the zoning bylaw so we can be a little bit more surgical in what changes apply to and the rules that govern development in the first place.
Well, we're not voting this tonight, so I just raise your awareness of this. And I think...
I do think we need to hear from former Selectman
right.
Banka about this.
Mr. Banka has told me that, in quote, he is agnostic on whether to go with the revised language, but we can hear that directly from him. Okay, I think we've completed our business for the evening, so thank you.